It is the decisive arm of the modern battlefield. The great Field Marshal Alan Brooke, the top British general of the war, would later write that it is with artillery that we will win this war. And in the Second World War, no army on earth believed in the power of artillery more fervently than the United States Army. American artillery was the great equalizer, the weapon that could break any defensive line and shatter any enemy attack. But a big gun is just a heavy piece of steel if you can't get it to the battle. In the early days of the war, moving these behemoths was a slow, agonizing process, a logistical nightmare that tied the most powerful weapons on the field to the speed of a walking man. The German army, for all its Blitzkrieg prowess, still relied on over 1 million horses to move the majority of its artillery. But America had a different solution. It was not a tank. It was not a truck. It was a purpose-built beast of burden, a high-speed, fully tracked tractor designed for one job: to give the artillery corps the mobility of a panzer division. This is the story of the M4 high-speed tractor, the unsung, unglamorous, and utterly indispensable hero that gave American artillery the power to dominate every battlefield of the war. To understand the genius of the M4, you must first understand the ancient problem it solved. For centuries, heavy artillery was a fundamentally static weapon. It was brought to the battlefield by slow-moving teams of horses or inadequate road-bound trucks. It was then painstakingly emplaced in a prepared position, a process that could take hours, and it would remain there for days or weeks. This immobility was a critical weakness in modern warfare. A gun battery's position could be easily spotted by enemy reconnaissance aircraft, making it a prime target for counter-battery fire. And in a war of rapid movement like the Blitzkrieg, by the time the big guns were ready to fire, the battle had often moved miles down the road. The U.S. Army, observing the failures in Europe and committed to a doctrine of total mechanization, knew they needed a better way. They needed a vehicle that could take their biggest guns anywhere a tank could go. The American doctrine was built on the concept of total mechanization. Every part of the army, from the infantry to the engineers, was to be motorized. For the field artillery branch, this meant a new class of vehicle was needed: a high-speed tractor, a fully tracked prime mover that could keep pace with the tanks and trucks, no matter the terrain. The design, developed by the Alice Chalmers Company, was a masterpiece of industrial pragmatism and a classic example of the arsenal of democracy. Instead of creating a completely new and complex vehicle from scratch, the engineers based the M4 on a proven existing chassis, the M3 Stuart light tank, itself derived from the M2 light tank. This was a stroke of genius. It used the same rugged and reliable vertical volet spring suspension, VVSS, and narrow tracks found on the M3 Stuart family. Its engine, a powerful 210 horsepower Waukesha 145 GZ six-cylinder gasoline engine, was placed in the center of the vehicle under the floorboards, giving it a unique weight distribution that was ideal for towing heavy loads without the front end lifting. This massive use of standardized, mass-produced parts meant the M4 was not only incredibly reliable, but easy to repair in the field using common parts and tools. The M4 high-speed tractor was a beast, weighing over 14 tons by itself. It was not just a tractor. It was a complete, self-contained mobile gun section, designed with every need of the artillery crew in mind. The large forward compartment could carry the entire 11-man gun crew, protecting them from the elements and small arms fire. At the rear, a massive ammunition chest could carry dozens of the huge, heavy shells for the cannon it was towing. This meant that when the M4 arrived at a firing position, the gun, the crew, and the initial supply of ammunition all arrived together, ready for immediate action. For self-defense and anti-aircraft protection, it was armed with a ring-mounted M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun, the most respected weapon in the American arsenal. With a top speed of 35 miles per hour, it was more than fast enough to keep up with the advancing armored columns. While safety regulations limited the towing speed of a massive gun like the Long Tom to around 20 to 25 miles per hour, the tractor's high speed meant it could quickly unhitch, race back for more ammunition, or rapidly reposition to a new sector of the front. The M4 was designed to tow the heaviest and most important guns in the American arsenal. It towed the 90mm anti-aircraft gun, a vital weapon that was also a superb tank killer. The M4's mobility allowed it to be rapidly redeployed to protect vital areas from air attack or to set up an ambush for German panzers. It towed the heavy 8-inch howitzer, but its most famous and important partner was the 155mm M1 field gun, nicknamed the Long Tom. This was the premier American heavy field gun of the war, capable of hurling a 95-pound shell over 14 miles with pinpoint accuracy, while the even larger 240mm Black Dragon howitzer required the M4's much bigger 38-ton brother, the M6 tractor. The M4 was the undisputed master of the Long Tom. The M4's mobility completely changed the rules of artillery warfare. It enabled the U.S. Army's doctrine of constantly displacing to alternate firing positions, a tactic modern soldiers would call shoot and scoot. A Long Tom battery could race to a forward position, fire a devastating barrage, and then immediately limber up and move to a new location before the Germans could calculate their position and return fire. The heavy artillery was no longer a static, vulnerable target. It was a mobile, lethal hunter, and the M4 high-speed tractor was the steed it rode. The M4's impact was felt on every front of the war. In the rugged, mountainous terrain of Italy, its powerful tracks and high ground clearance were often the only way to get the big guns up the steep, muddy, and demolished mountain roads. In the race across France, it ensured that the heavy artillery could keep pace with Patton's racing Sherman tanks, providing the long-range fire support they needed to smash German strongpoints from miles away. It was also a vital tool for the Allies. Under the Lend-Lease program, hundreds of M4s were supplied to the British and Free French armies, giving their heavy artillery a level of mobility they had previously lacked. The design was so rugged and so reliable that its story didn't end in 1945. After the war, thousands of surplus M4s were sold to civilian companies and other nations. They served for decades as logging tractors, construction equipment, and artillery haulers in armies around the world, a testament to the brilliance of their simple, overbuilt design. They were even used by armies like the Dutch and Japanese as late as the 1970s, a service life of over 30 years for a vehicle designed in the heat of war. The M4 high-speed tractor was not a glamorous weapon. It has been largely forgotten by history, overshadowed by the tanks it served alongside and the guns it pulled. It was a humble, brutish, and utterly utilitarian machine, but it was a true force multiplier. It was the linchpin of American artillery dominance. It gave the heavy guns the legs they needed to keep pace with the most mobile army in the world. It is a perfect symbol of the American way of war, where victory was achieved not just with brilliant tanks and planes, but with the unglamorous, overwhelming, and unstoppable power of superior logistics. What do you think is the most underrated but essential support vehicle of World War II? Let us know in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the unsung heroes of the war, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.